So I'm back with another video after almost 2 weeks after the Z9 storm has died down a little bit. Not died, but I think the excitement has sort of normalized a bit. It's a good time to talk about some very important news coming from the Nikon quarters, and it's all about the existing and more entry level models like the Z50, the Z5, and 2.5 years old Z6 and Z7. We have great news. All of these bodies have received firmware updates, and I'm going to show you just right after a small description of what kind of updates we're going to see this time. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show you how the Z6 performance has actually improved in terms of autofocus, especially eye and face detection. But before I take you through the demonstration of the test, let me tell you what's up with all these bodies. What's common is that all these bodies are now getting they're now compatible with the FTZ2 adapter. So when the FTZ2 adapter was released, some people moaned and was sad about the fact that it was only going to work with the Z9 at the time of its launch. But Nikon have been quick to release a firmware update for all these bodies, and now Z50, Z5, Z6, and Z7 all have received firmware so that they can work with the new FTZ adapter without the pump. Now, at the same time, remember the ZFC, we haven't seen an update for the ZFC yet for these things. All these bodies are not now also compatible with the new 24 to 120 f4 lens, which is recently released, but at least in India it's not available yet. I don't even know the price of that lens in India, but yeah, so these bodies are ready to take that lens. All these bodies have also received improved face eye detection performance and the visibility of subjects in pictures taken using an optional flash unit. It's complicated Nikon language. I think it is translated from Japanese, but I think what they're trying to say is that first, it's going to have all these bodies are going to have improved face and eye detection. That's great. The second thing is that you're going to have better visibility. When you're using a flash, you're going to have much better autofocus. The one thing that the Z6 and the Z7II have gotten is the fact that the focus box that's painted, the eye and the face detection box, the yellow box that's painted, that's going to now track the subject more faithfully, in the sense that now you'll see that there's going to be less lag in terms of the box following the eye. Previously, what used to happen is that, when you're shooting, you can see that the box, you'll see the pictures are in focus. When you take the pictures and you go back to your computer and see, you'll see the pictures are in focus, but while taking the shots, quite a few times the box was actually not following the eye, because it was lagging behind. It is not updating its current position. So that, I think, have been improved, and that they have used Nikon language for that. They're saying increased refresh rate for focus point displayed during face eye detection and subject tracking AF, which means that this box faithfully following the subject is going to improve. That the lag is now going to go away even for the subject tracking autofocus. Now these are all great news. This is fantastic. Now let's just see how the Z6 actually, I'm just looking at my computer because I have the video footage in front of me. Let's just look at how the Z6 was performing before the firmware update. And this is fairly a dim sort of situation where I was it's my brother there, and I just asked him to just walk around in the room. I'm using an 85mm 1.8, the G lens. It's adapted, and as you can see, it's about a 25 feet long room, and you can see how the box, the Z6, is primarily using face detect. Mostly it's using face detect, but it's doing a pretty good job. It's pretty low light ISO 800 1/250th of a second at f1.8. It's only when the subject comes close that the camera actually can see the eye. Now I move to the auto wide area L mode, large mode, and in that it's I can visibly see that the subject is in focus. That whenever he's moving forward, I can see the background go blur, and I can tell you that the wide L area already, it's more accurate than the auto area autofocus, where you have left it complete to the camera to detect the subject, detect the face or the eye, and then pick it up and then focus on it. When you define the area with that box, which in Nikon language is called wide area large, that is usually more focused. The camera is trying to look for a subject within that area, and therefore it's more accurate most times. So but if you look at all these, when I was shooting and I sort of recorded the screen, I got a decent, it was usual Z6 performance, right? What I got was that I shot about 109 pictures in both modes, auto area autofocus and wide area L large mode. And so I got 70 shots in focus out of 109 shots. Now that's about 64%. I'll tell you what I got after the firmware update, after I updated my camera. Now let's look at, before I do that, let's look at how it performed with the old firmware, how the camera performed when it came to flash. So in this situation, I'm using the flash, and again, the camera is actually detecting the head and the face. At times it's going out of focus, especially when there's a little bit of distraction in front of the subject. Like I have that light Godox light coming in front, and then it was sort of missing focus, right? You can see that when he came forward, there was a moment where the camera kind of lost focus for a bit. So in this mode, while using flash, I shot 19 pictures, and I got 14 of them in focus. You can see intermittently the camera is catching the eye, but most often it's just using the um, face detect. Now if we move to the firmware version 3.4, after I installed, and my brother just went and changed and got into more relaxing clothes, and now he's wearing a green t-shirt. I think it's the Brazilian football team's t-shirt or something like that, right? What I immediately you can see that the camera is detecting the eye. And mind you, I've gone back five feet further again. So I'm using the entire sort of length of this room, and I could see that the camera could capture the eye for from such a long distance. And in fact, when he was he was going behind, he was going in between the wall and the Godox light, it actually could detect the face, it actually could detect the eye. I had to just give it a little bit more time, and it could pick it up. So it may not be here I'd like to make a point. I think oftentimes it is not the performance, the capability to focus better. It is when the camera is able to detect what to focus on better, the performance automatically improves, because the camera is now using all of its capabilities to focus on the detected subject or the detected face or the detected eye. When the pattern detection technology is not improved or not as good, then the system is not telling the camera where to focus. So even if Nikon ensures that there is consistent improvement in terms of pattern detection, I think these cameras can greatly improve in terms of their autofocusing capability, because the camera is now telling, the system is now telling the focusing system, or the pattern recognition system, the AI is now telling the focusing system, dude, there is a subject, now focus there. So when it does not have that, it's so I think it's a very meaningful update, is what I'm trying to say. So when I shot in this mode, I basically got about I'll tell you, I so after the firmware update, I took about 177 shots, out of which 145 were in focus. And I did not count the numbers. I did not count the ones who were sort of was in focus, but there was a slight bit of motion blur because he's still moving, walking up and down, and it's still at 2/50th of a second. He's not sort of still, right? He's moving. So I still did not count those shots. and that is now about is 82% accuracy. So it has, just with this firmware update in this kind of low light situations, mind you, this is a low light situation because this is night in India right now, right? So this has improved by about 20%. The autofocus accuracy has improved by about 20%, not by increasing the autofocus capability of the system, but by making the system more aware of the subject in front of it, by making it able to sort of paint the box on the face and the eye more efficiently. And that has done the trick. When I use a flash after this, and I took about 19 shots, and 14 of them, not 19, I think, when I use a flash after this, I took about 18 shots this time, and of them 17 were in focus. So that's about 94% success rate. So all in all, I think this is a fantastic improvement. I expect to see the same improvement, same level of improvement in the Z5 and the Z50. That's great news for the owners of the Z5 and the Z50, because those are entry level cameras, and a lot of people were thinking that they're not going to get any support from Nikon going forward. In fact, I people were asking me, I thought Nikon is not going to push any more firmware update for the Z6 and the Z7. So now we know that Nikon is generous enough. As long as people wait a bit, Nikon is generous enough to give you as much as possible. In fact, I'll tell you a funny story. I was thinking of selling off the Z6 and getting the A7 IV, just so that I can use another system, so that I can provide more value for people who are comparing between two systems. On this channel, I wanted to do that, but now I was thinking of sort of selling the Z6. But now, after this firmware update, I don't want to sell the Z6 anymore. I think it works beautifully. And I was using the 70 to 200 with the Z6 a few days back, and I had more success using the Z6II with that lens. And for me, it was a bit frustrating, a little bit frustrating using the Z6 with the 70 to 200 when the model was like walking towards me quite fast, in a sprightly pace. It was a bit frustrating, but right now I'm feeling very confident. I'm going to try out that lens with this camera whenever I have opportunity, and I'm going to report here. I'm going to tell you how the other lenses work. I've used obviously an adapted lens, an f-mount Nikon lens 85 1.8G. Now let's have another look, side by side comparison between the old firmware and the new firmware. And I hope I'm able to sort of show you exactly how they differ. You see, at the same distance, you see, for with the old firmware, I was actually closer to the subject, right? I was closer to the subject. You can see my brother, he's bigger in the frame, but the Z6 with the old firmware was still detecting only the face and the head. But with the new firmware, you can see that he is smaller in the frame. I've gone back a little bit, I've taken 5 steps backward, and it is still detecting the eye even further away. So that there, right there, is a wonderful improvement, and then that's I'm very excited about it. This is great. What it tells me is that a lot of people are saying that there's no way that that any of the Z9 goodness can come flow down to the Z6IIs and the Z7IIs. I don't think that's true at all. I think we're going to see a formidable firmware update. Remember, this is uh, version 3.4 for the Z6 and Z7, and we're only at, I think, 1.4 or 1.2 on the Z6II and the Z7II. So there's a long way to go. There is a long way to go for these cameras. I think we're going to see at least 2 point firmware updates till 2.5. We're definitely going to see a firmware update which makes the Z6II and the Z7II compatible with the new lenses and with the new adapter. But at the same time, I think Nikon is developing the new tracking mode. I think we're going to see that, at least some of that. Like they said, they were going to share an watered down version with uh, the owners of the the Z6II and the Z7II, and I'm therefore looking forward to it. I think it's going to come. So there you go, guys. So this is a great news, wonderful stuff. If you're thinking of selling the Z6, do not, because I think this is going to change. Update the camera body, see how it performs after that. If you're still not satisfied, if you still think you're missing out on something, you want to buy the Z6 II, maybe go ahead. But I think right now, at the price at which the Z6 is being sold, it's a great value. I think it's better than any camera out there right now, because it can shoot 12-bit raw for video. Don't forget that. Do not forget that. It's got IBIS, it's got excellent EVF, excellent LCD, excellent weather seal, and the wonderful Nikon lens, of course. But that's not about the body. But all these things, it's so easy to change between video and photo. So if you look at all these things at that price point, about 1500, 1600, or 1400, I don't know what the price is right now, but it's somewhere between 14 to 1600 US dollars. And if you get it used, it's going to be even cheaper, about 1000 to 1200 US dollars. This is a bargain. Just get that camera used maybe, and get the firmware update, and you're good to go. This is wonderful. I'm so happy. So, and I'm telling you, this is very close to the Z6 II performance in terms of how far away it can pick up the eye and pick up the face, and how consistently it can do it. About 82% success rate in terms of autofocus while using face and eye detect. That's exactly how much I get on the Z6 II. I get about 85 to 92% on the Z6 II. So it's very close to that. It's definitely a big jump from the 60 something percent right there. So the great news, guys. And now let's move into a small update on the lenses. We see a lot of interesting news coming out. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but we're going to see a 26 mm. It's as flat as the 1.4 times converter, teleconverter. It's a true pancake lens. It's going to be a 26 mm lens. We do not know whether it's going to be a DX lens or an FX lens. I kind of wish that it's a FX lens. That's going to be real fun. And no one, I do not remember anyone having this kind of such a small and pancakish lens for an FX system. So if it's for the FX system, it's going to be great. There's a 24 mm and it's going to be DX. So Nikon have mentioned that it's the 24 mm is going to be DX. That's going to be about 36 mm full frame equivalent, right? And we're going to also see 12 to 28 DX lens. It's almost the same size as the 50 micro, which is quite small. I think we're going to see maybe 2.8 to f4 lens there. 12 to 18 12 to 18 is quite wide. It's about 18 to somewhere, I think my math is not very good, but somewhere around 50 right? 18 to 50, 18 to 45, 46 is what you're going to get. And that's very interesting. That's very interesting for street photographers. I think it's a wonderful. I would like to have that lens. In fact, I think that's going to be a very useful lens for anyone using the full frame cameras, and you want to use a crop mode for 4K video. This is going to be a very interesting lens for that purpose as well. The Nikon have added some really exciting massive lenses. So there's going to be an 800 lens, right? 800 lens, and there's going to be a 400 f2.8 lens with a gold ring. So Nikon is going to use the gold ring again. So there are S lenses, and there will probably be S lenses with a ring on it. So it's clearly going to be a super luxury lens, right? Not premium, not even super premium. It's going to be a luxury lens. The 600 there's another prime. So there are three primes: 800, 400, 2.8, and 600. These lenses look like that they're going to be fast lenses given the size of these. They're at least going to be f4 or f5. I think they're going to be the 800 and the 600 I think that 800 is going to be about an f8 given how narrow it is but long. So f8, I think. will be very happy. It's somewhere around 7.1 or 5.6. Unlikely, but will be great if it's that. I think the 600 lens is longer than the 800 lens in size. It's wider, so I think the 600 lens can be an f4 lens, and this looks like a new addition. The 400 f2.8, yeah, luxury lens. The 200 to 600 I think is going to replace the 200 to 500 f mount lens, so I think it's going to be quite affordable. Constant aperture 5.6, 200 to 600 there is another 400 prime now, and it's a prime, so I think it's going to be and it's one third the size of the 400 f2.8. so I think this 400 they have not revealed the aperture value of this one. I think it's going to be an f 5.6 prime, right? People who are looking for a prime, a 5.6, great. Or what if it's a pf lens? What if it's a, see, it's the same size of a 7200 or the 100 to 400, the 400 prime. The 400 prime, if it is a pf lens, as in I forgot what Fresnel, phased Fresnel lens, I think. So there, that technology helps Nikon make very compact lenses for telephoto lenses. Those material, kind of material is used. So what if it's actually an f4, 400 f4, and it's a pf? It could be, because Nikon haven't announced any PF lens so far, and that could, the 400 the smaller 400 could well be that. What is interesting though is that there's still no conversation on the 85 1.2, as in, we're all expecting it to 1.2, but they have not yet really sort of talked about the aperture yet. And I'm thinking, why are they taking such a long time to reveal the aperture? Because it's been on sitting on the lineup for about what, the last 1 year, almost a year now. So what's this drama about? Could it be an f1 lens? I don't know. I mean, because it's a pretty fat lens. It's a pretty choti, like they say, lens. It's a pretty fat lens. So it's actually fatter than the 50 1.2. So I don't know, guys. It could be f1, f1.1. I don't know. And if it is 1.2, why the suspense? Why don't they just release it? I have been right about my conjectures a few times before, so you never know. I could be right about the 400 being an f4 and a pf lens, and the 85 lens being a 1.1 or 1 f1 lens. You never know, guys. But that's about it for this. I kind of uploaded this video after a long period. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you like this, if you like the conversation here, do help and support the channel by subscribing. See you very soon.